Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee. Thank you for being here early on a Monday. And I'm grateful to be able to present Senate Joint Resolution 72. This resolution is the same as Senate Joint Resolution 8 of last year. Last year's resolution actually was voted do pass by the committee, but it was not called out of committee to be debated on the floor. And I'm hoping this year we can have a different resolution on that. Senate Joint Resolution defines a person as every human being with a unique DNA code regardless of age. Therefore, since DNA is created at the moment of conception, preborn babies will be treated as persons if this resolution passes.
Senator, not to interrupt, but is your microphone on for those
It is.
at home? Okay.
Yeah.
Just
Should I
pull it a little bit
closer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
For the record, should I begin again? No, you're fine. And I didn't tell who I was, but I'm Mike Moon. I represent Missouri's 29th Senate District. And as I was saying, this resolution was the same as last year's Senate Joint Resolution 8, was passed the committee by vote, but was not called out for debate on the floor. And Senate Joint Resolution 72 defines a person is every human with a unique DNA code, regardless of age. Therefore, since DNA is created at the moment of conception, preborn babies will be treated as persons with equal protection and due process of law. Now, we're in a precarious situation in our state. Under the U.S. Constitution, all persons are afforded equal process or equal protection and due process. But our state constitution doesn't recognize that. In fact, it goes just the opposite, even though state law has in Chapter 1, Section 205, that life begins at conception. And so what I'm hoping to do with this resolution is to bring to the public's mind the total disregard that we have for life at this point. And we need to make some changes, and that would be by recognizing all persons from the point of conception as persons. So you are probably more familiar than I am with the Declaration of Independence, which Thomas Jefferson wrote, in which he says, "We are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life." And I should probably stop there, because without life, that's it. There's no liberty. There's no happiness. There's no ability to gain property. And man's law has followed God's law in that specific circumstances, a law or a life can be taken as consequence to breaking certain laws. Otherwise, there's, according to God's law anyway, there's no justification for ending a life prematurely. I revisited a story that I've read multiple times in my adult life, and that is the one of Esther. Esther was taken captive years and years ago, and I don't know that that's what she wanted, but by God's providence, that's what happened. And her uncle Mordecai was trying to be her caretaker as much as he could outside the palace walls. When he came upon some information that was going to annihilate his and her people, he went to Esther, who by that time had already been crowned queen by King Ahasuerus, and he urged Esther to go before the king and to plead her case and her people's case. But there was a custom back then where if the king did not summon you, if you were to go in the throne room, you could be put to death unless he held out his golden scepter. And I would imagine that King Ahasuerus was so taken by Esther that he did hold out his scepter. She was able to make the case, and over time, her people was saved from not King Haman, but Haman's plot to annihilate an entire race of people. Now, I find it interesting, I don't think it's coincidental, that today's hearing is on the first day of Purim at sundown tonight. And Purim is celebrated by those who remember the story about Haman and his desire to wipe out an entire race, and this is celebrating their saving. And much of that was done not because of Esther particularly, but she was obedient to God, and it was through his providence and by his providence that they were saved.
Senator, let me just interrupt real quick so we can establish the quorum.
You bet.
Madam Secretary, can you please call the roll?
Chairman Brown, Senator Berger,
Here.
Senator Brown,
Here.
Senator Huff, Senator Lewis, Senator McCreary, Senator Shore,
Here.
Senator O'Laughlin.
Oh.
And Lewis.
Okay, sorry for the interruption.
That's
You can-
okay.
You can continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And so, on that note, some are saying that we're doing our best to save the children, especially the preborn children. But I ask you this question: how can we make that claim if we haven't taken all the steps that we could possibly take to make that happen? You know, we hold the future of many preborn children in our hands. And I failed to make a point about the Declaration because Thomas Jefferson didn't end at that. When he talked about life, liberty, and happiness, he said that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers by the consent of the people, or the consent of the governed, and that is us. And we have a unique privilege of being in the government, and so we have a unique responsibility, too, to make the right choices for those who are preborn. And so will this committee determine that we've already done as much as we can do? Or will you endeavor to do even more? And on that note, yesterday morning I put out my capital report, and in that I added a link to a witness form whereby people could, if they wanted to, follow the link, complete the form, and submit it. And I know many committees don't actually take the forms and put them into the record, but I have before me today and before you 514 witness forms in support. I think that's the most I've ever seen completed online. And of course, we couldn't get 514 people here in this committee room today. But look at this, that's a stack of papers. Now, to be fair, I have 3 that were noted, two noted in opposition. One, though, as I read it, wasn't really opposed. I think they just clicked the wrong tab, but we didn't change that. We wanted to be fair to all concerned there. And there's one that submitted for information purposes only. That's a lot of people, even just to take the time, a few minutes, to go out and complete a form. I think it shows that there are people outside these Capitol walls that really do care. And look, we've got a full room. I don't know how many are here in favor, how many against, or how many for information. But I think that's a good showing that the people of Missouri want this resolution to be heard and debated. And now we leave that in your hands. Are there any questions that I might be able to answer for you?
Senator, thank you for your passion on this issue. I know you and I have been sitting next to each other since my time in the Missouri House, and you've been very consistent in your fight for this piece of legislation. On the submissions, I went and looked. Most of the committees have a line on there that says only individuals or organizations testifying in person will be entered into the committee report.
Right.
But we will distribute that. I'll talk to the secretary and the chairman when he gets back in town and distribute that to the committee members.
Thank you.
Any questions for Senator Moon on Senate Joint Resolution 72? Senator McCreary, please proceed.
First of all, before I get going, there are 3 senators in this room that voted against protecting children from abuse on Wednesday on the Senate floor. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are. You've talked a lot about the preborn. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on not protecting children from abuse that can lead to their death.
Mm-hmm. You're probably referring to a vote I cast, I imagine. And, you know, it's heartbreaking to me, Senator, that we cobble together legislation that doesn't follow our own Constitution that we all swore an oath to support. And I could be wrong on that particular bill that you're referring to, but if I'm correct, there were several different subjects or topics that were in that bill, and I hate doing that.
Well, you are incorrect, because I was advised by the chair of the judiciary, who ruled on the point of order. I resubmitted the bill, and it was within the scope of the title, but you still voted against it.
I think that's where we have differing of opinions.
Okay.
And again, I could be wrong.
So you're splitting hairs is what it sounds like to me.
Well, I could be wrong. I'm admitting that I am fallible. And if I've made a mistake, I will do everything in my power to make that right. If it comes back
So
over.
that's been a standalone bill. I've had the bill for 4 years. It's passed out of the House nearly unanimously for several years, but yet over here, there's a handful of senators that do not want to protect children from abuse that leads to their deaths. Every year, about 27 children are killed at the hands of an abuser, and I'm simply trying to help those kids.
Yes, and
So-
I admire you for doing that. I wish that we had a more pure method of doing that as well. And again, I admit that I make mistakes. If I were to go back there and look at that and find that I was mistaken, I'd be happy to bring that up, even in public, and say so.
Okay, well, you'll have a chance to do that. So,
Okay.
another thing that's very troubling about your SJR is the impact it would have on in vitro fertilization. The way your language is written is it's very similar to what happened in the state of Alabama, that had a chilling effect on families being able to conceive and have children using
Yes.
other in vitro and other forms of fertility methods. I got an email last spring from a woman. She said she's a Christian woman, a wife and a mother. They tried for years to conceive on their own. Their fertility specialist said they had a chance of conceiving children was only 2%. They spoke to their pastor and decided to move forward with in vitro fertilization. They spent all of their money. She injected herself 4 times a day. Then finally it was egg retrieval day. Her clinic retrieved 21 eggs, 19 were mature, and 17 total were fertilized. 2 embryos were transferred that day, and the remaining 7 were frozen. None of their embryos were discarded. So, long story short, your language is very troubling, and it doesn't just impact non-Christians. It impacts some very, very conservative families all around the state. So I just am wondering what your thoughts are on hindering the ability of families to conceive using fertility methods.
Senator, I don't think we've had this conversation, but I don't believe in coincidence. And I think you're in for a surprise today. Not just this, but some of the witnesses that we have. I have a substitute that I would like to submit at some point in time as a committee substitute, where it will, the term person under this Constitution includes every human being with a unique DNA code regardless of age, including every human child at every stage of biological development from the moment of fertilization until birth. That change in the language, I think, will include those in vitro embryos too.
Well, so are you testifying on the sub that you're looking at? Or are you testifying on the
No, I'm just telling you-
SGR that was given to us?
I'm just telling you that I am planning to make a change. So I think it will cover the concerns that you and the person who emailed you. So I think we're going to address that.
All right, I'd like to see that language.
Okay.
So you are okay then with families using fertility treatments? Yes, you are? Okay.
Senator, please proceed.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Just along those lines, we don't have the amended language or the sub in front of us, but you said at the point of fertilization? Okay, so I don't know that that really solves the IVF problem, because sometimes there's multiple like fertilized eggs or fertilized embryos or whatever, and some aren't viable with life, so I don't know that that would be a complete fix
Okay.
to IVF.
Well, let's have discussions and see what needs to be changed to make it right.
Okay, sure. And then I do have a question. When I appreciate you surveying the people who follow you on your newsletter and stuff, and it's great. I love reaching out to my folks too, but I don't know that that's representative to the entire state. Because if I was sent a survey to my district about this hearing, I would get overwhelming opposition. And we have the facts from Amendment 3 of where all Missourians lie. 79% of my voters in my district voted in favor of legalizing abortion. Another senator in this district had 51%, or another senator in this committee had 51%. Another senator had 54 in favor, and another senator had 66. So while I do appreciate that, I don't think that's true representation of how Missourians feel, given the recent ballot a couple of years ago to legalize abortion in the state. And with that being said, you also said that it's our duty to follow the Constitution. The voters have spoke. The Constitution has been amended. Do you feel it's our duty to follow the Constitution?
We are currently following the Constitution, but there also are opportunities to change the Constitution because it was changed a couple of years ago, and I just think that there are a lot of people who think it needs to be changed again.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could make one point here. I don't have the greatest following on my newsletter, but these were apparently shared. We have all the way from Cape Girardeau to Baldwin, Missouri, Lee Summit. There's a Gray Summit, I'm not sure where that is, Springfield, St. Charles, and that's just a handful. So the news was spread far and wide, it seems, and so had a pretty good sampling, I believe.
Further questions for Senator Moon? Seeing none. Your first witness in support can please come forward. Make sure you have a witness form filled out, and you will have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Wes Scroggins. I serve as Executive Director of Abolish Abortion Missouri. I'm here today to testify in favor of SJR 72. All right, my question is how long? How much longer are we going to continue to murder children in the womb? To deny them inalienable rights given by their creator, and to treat these children as being subhuman. How much longer are we going to continue to do that? We've got opportunity here and now to change those things. For millennia, cultures, peoples have recognized the personhood of the preborn. King David, king of Israel, approximately 3,000 years ago, he wrote Psalm 139, 13 through 16, about how intricately God had created him in the womb and even planned his days before there was yet even one, before he was even born. The fact that God recognized him and was forming him in the womb. If God recognizes the humanity, the personhood of the preborn, does he expect any less from us? God demands equal justice, equal protection for all persons. That is a theme that runs throughout Scripture. Granting personhood to the preborn would satisfy that demand for justice by eliminating partiality given to born people and treating the preborn differently as if they're not fully human. Article 1, Section 2 of our state constitution already requires that equal rights, equal opportunity be given to all persons. SJR 72 simply will include the preborn in that protection. That's what it will do. This committee has an opportunity. It's got an opportunity to begin the process of recognizing preborn children for who they are, recognizing their value, the sanctity of human life. It's got the opportunity to take first steps toward ending the murder of those children in the womb and sending a message to the people of Missouri that it's time to stop killing these children and to recognize the value and the sanctity of all human life. I urge the committee to take these steps and to do this. I urge the committee to please vote yes on SJR 72. Thank you.
Sorry for that horrible timer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Scroggins? Please proceed.
So how would you suggest punishing Missourians who provide or counsel on abortion care?
Well, how do we currently punish people that advise or take part in the murder of a person? I would advise that we, in the sense of equal justice, right? Equal justice under the law, that the same laws be followed. That would be providing equal protection and equal justice to the preborn. If we treated people, right, who had the same, any role in their murder, if they were prosecuted the same, right, if there was the evidence there, right, the same process was carried out for those who take part in the murder of a born person, that's equal justice and equal protection under the law. And so I advise that the same protection be extended to the preborn.
So not just the physicians and the healthcare team, what about the woman?
Anyone who has a role in killing a preborn child, we should subject, right, to the same due process under law, the same process under law that we subject anyone to who has a role in the killing of any person. That's equal justice and equal protection.
That's stunning. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Please proceed.
So just to summarize what I think I'm hearing, you say anyone who is involved with abortion care, in your opinion, is the same as murder.
When we take the life of a born person,
Is it just yes or no? I just want to make sure.
we call it murder.
Okay.
So yes.
And then what are your thoughts and your organization? Have you provided testimony in support of any of the bills going around limiting or any of the bills in support of statutes of limitation legislation for children who have been abused?
No, we have not.
No. So don't care about kids living and breathing on this planet who've been abused.
I would not say that we don't care about those things. We just, our time and our resources are limited, and we have focused upon ending the murder of children in this state. That's our focus
Not
and our
children,
mission.
embryos. 'Cause
Children.
That's not scientifically accurate. Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none. We're now going to move to the first witness in opposition of Senate Joint Resolution 72. Make sure you state your name for the record, have your witness form, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you for taking my testimony. My name is Kay Park, and I'm here on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Missouri in opposition to SJR 72 for the following reasons. First of all, the U.S. Constitution has consistently rejected the idea that embryos or fetuses are persons under the 14th Amendment.
Can you pull the microphone a little bit closer and make sure that one's on?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. And secondly, conception-based personhood would create unadministratable legal obligations, like we were talking about before, including criminal liability for miscarriage and natural embryonic loss. And in a pluralistic society, we avoid enforcing one moral or religious belief through the law. It contradicts science, medicine, and constitutional rights. Even a bacteria has a unique DNA. An unborn child being identified as a person is not consistent with all religious beliefs in the U.S. for U.S. citizens, including Islam and Judaism. This is against the religious freedom provisions in the First Amendment. People of Missouri, most of all, people of Missouri, just 2 years ago, voted for the right to contraception and abortion. The majority of people did, and probably even more would have if there weren't so many misconceptions and lies about the law. That takes away the right that the people of this state worked so hard for. So I request that this committee please respect what Missourians want and please oppose SJR 72.
Questions for the witness? Seeing none. We're now going to move back to those in favor of Senate Joint Resolution 72. Again, please make sure you state your name for the record, have your witness form filled out, and proceed when ready.
Do you have some pictures I want to give you first? Elie Wiesel, a Holocaust survivor who endured Auschwitz and Buchenwald, once said, "We must always take sides."
Briefly, can you state your name for the record?
I'm sorry, Marlene Strage. He said, "We must always take sides. Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. Silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented. Sometimes we must interfere." It is that final line, "sometimes we must interfere," that brings my daughter Hannah and me here today. Good afternoon. My name is Marlene Strage. I live in Colorado. Though I spent 62 years of my life in California, my husband John and I have been married for 41 years. In the mid-1990s, we sought medical treatment for infertility. What began as simple interventions gradually became more intensive when I was diagnosed with premature ovarian failure. We were told that IVF using donor eggs would be our only option to have our children. Through tears, I asked the doctor a different question. "Do you have any embryos that we could adopt?" He was surprised. He told us he had never been asked that before, but he said yes, there were frozen embryos remaining from other families' IVF treatments. My husband and I began asking deeper questions. We sought counsel within our church. We researched, we prayed, and we came to a clear conclusion. We knew those embryos were human lives, and that recognition required action. So we moved forward. We completed a full home study in the state of California. The same process required for traditional adoption. And if any of you are familiar with that, it's an FBI background check, it's financial disclosures, medical evaluations, references, all kinds of things. We had a social worker come to the house before and after placement. At the same time, a family in another state had completed their family through IVF and had 20 remaining frozen embryos. They desired to place them for adoption. Because the law recognized categorized embryos as property, the legal agreement had to be structured under property law, even though it followed adoption best practices in every other respect. Let that settle for a moment. Children, boys and girls, legally treated as property. After the required waiting period, we became the parents of 20 boys and girls, each in their embryonic stage of development. They were transported to our clinic in Pasadena, California, where my body was then prepared medically to provide a womb, a first home for them. On the 20, 14 did not survive the thawing process. 3 showed significant damage. 3 were then transferred. Only 1 survived. That child is Hannah. I am both Hannah's birth mother and her adoptive mother. I did not create Hannah. She was already created at 1 cell, She simply needed time, oxygen, and nutrients to grow.
While your
And-
time has expired, I'll give you a couple seconds to wrap up.
Okay. These are not theoretical. These are real children. I just want to refer to the pictures. I want you to meet Samuel. That's him on the bottom. He is in the petri dish. That's his placenta above, and he is about to be transferred. And on the next page is him. He's just a little bit older, same person, different pictures. We have Thaddeus on the next page. He was frozen, you may have heard about this, for over 30 years. He was born last July. The next page, we have the Gilly Girls Band, 2 sets of twin girls that were adopted. On the next page, you'll see that Jillian and Haley were frozen for 9 years, Morgan and Savannah for 7 years. All of these children were property. Next page, identical twins, Sam and Ben, both sports writers, and his younger brother David on the next page. He's a police officer. And lastly, we have snowflakes number 2 and 3, Mark and Luke. They're now protecting us, and we need to protect these children that are still frozen.
And I see you've got written testimony. If you want to submit that with
Okay.
your witness testimony, we'll make sure that everybody gets access
Okay,
to
great.
it.
Thank you. And I look forward to any questions.
Any questions for the witness? Seeing none, I guess since you're already sitting there, we could go to you, and then we'll give 2 for the opposition, if that's fine. Okay. Please proceed and state your name.
Hi, I'm Hannah Streggy, Chair and members of the committee. Before I had a heartbeat in a womb, before I had a birth certificate, before I had a name, I had an inventory number. For 2 years and 9 months, I existed in a frozen canister of liquid nitrogen. My legal status was not child, it was property. My name is Hannah Streggy, and I'm 27 years old, and I'm a licensed social worker, and to my knowledge, the first adopted frozen embryo in the world. When my parents adopted me and my 19 siblings, we had already existed for nearly 3 years. Not in a nursery, not in a home, not in storage, biologically human, yet treated under property law. There are federally protected animal species in this country whose embryos' eggs receive explicit legal safeguards. Bald eagle embryos are protected, certain turtle eggs are protected, yet human embryos, children like I once was, may be bought, sold, abandoned, or destroyed. In many jurisdictions, they are handled through property law frameworks. I stand before you as someone who once lived under that classification. I earned my master's in social work from Baylor University. I have practiced as a licensed social worker in Colorado for the past 2 years, and next week I sit for my LCSW exam. I speak to you not only as someone personally affected by this issue, but as a mental health professional who understands identity formation, attachment, and the long-term psychological impact of how society defines human worth. There are an estimated 1.5 million frozen embryos currently in storage nationally today. Many are here in Missouri. They do not have a voice, but I do. Please look at the photographs provided. The first image shows me and 2 of my siblings on the day we were thawed. The second shows us the following day as we advanced in development in the laboratory. At that stage, called compaction, the cells reorganize and a fluid-filled cavity starts to form. We were not theoretical. We were not potential. We were living human organisms at an early stage of development. The final photograph is my graduation from Baylor University. Same human being, different stage of development. The only difference between those images is time. As someone created through IVF, I have seen the legal consequences of classifying embryos as property. In a recent divorce dispute, a couple disagreed over the disposition of the remaining frozen embryos. The matter was initially handled within a property division framework. One party was ultimately granted decision-making authority over those embryos. When human beings are categorized as property, custody disputes can become property disputes. That distinction carries profound ethical and legal consequences. I founded Wonderfully Made Adoption Services International to provide counseling and consulting for individuals conceived through IVF and for families navigating embryo adoption. My parents modeled something powerful: transparency, openness, and the decision to treat embryos as children from the very beginning.
While your time has expired, I'll give you a couple seconds to
Thank you.
wrap up.
We have an open adoption with my genetic family. We were treated as sons and daughters, not inventory, and I think that distinction matters, especially here today. Thank you for your time.
And again, you can submit the rest of your testimony with your witness form. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you again for your time today and testifying. We're going to move to the next two in opposition of Senate Joint Resolution 72. Anyone in opposition of Senate Joint Resolution 72? All right, there's no one else, so we're going to continue with those in favor of Senate Joint Resolution 72.
Members of the committee, thank you for being here today and hearing these testimonies. My name is Melissa Jacobs. My husband and I live in St. Charles County, and Senator Schwar is actually our senator. So thank you, Senator Schwar, for being here today. I am testifying today in support of SJR 72, and to explain why, I'd like to tell you a story. My husband and I are the proud parents of 10 children. 8 are living, 3 are adopted, and 2 are waiting for us in heaven. In 2010, after having 5 full-term pregnancies and resulting in live births, I got pregnant again, and we were thrilled to be expecting our 6th child. We went to our 8-week ultrasound, where we were given the unfortunate news that our child did not have a heartbeat. And my doctor told me that I would be having a miscarriage soon after that. About 2 weeks after that, I began to have a miscarriage. It was a rather traumatic experience that resulted in medical intervention to save my life, and resulted in me going through a time of deep depression where I grieved the loss of that child. My question to the committee today is, if that was not a person, even at that very early stage of development, why did I grieve over that loss as I would have grieved over any loss of someone important to me? After that experience, I went through a time where I actually took up running, and I hate running, but it was the only thing that I could think to do to escape from the pain of that loss. So my question to the committee today is, if children in the womb and children at very early stages of development are not actually people, why do mothers grieve the loss of these children that they lose through miscarriage? And I ask you today to please consider the testimony of these before you in this room full of people who've experienced loss, who've experienced the beauty of delivering children, and who've experienced adopting children as embryos, which my husband and I also did that as well. And for us, that experience ended in a miscarriage, unfortunately. But we have run the gamut of seeing children born into our family biologically, through adoption, through embryo adoption, and my testimony is that all are valuable, and all are valuable in the womb. And so I ask you to please consider voting yes on this personhood amendment and sending it to the full Senate. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time and testimony today. I want to express my condolences for what you've gone through and losing one. My wife and I, very kind of bittersweet, because if we wouldn't have lost our second one to a miscarriage, my third one wouldn't be here. So I too know how families grieve. The one question I had for you is going back to the last witness. If this is not life at this stage, and I believe it is, I believe it's one of the stages in human development, then why the need to freeze the embryos? If anybody can answer that.
You mean if they're going through IVF?
Well, if it's not life, then why is there the need to? Maybe that's a rhetorical question.
So what happens is the woman may not get pregnant on the first transfer with the fresh embryos, and it's very costly. So they create more embryos than they need for future transfers. However, they can also freeze unfertilized eggs and then pull those out, fertilize them as they go, which I'm not opposed to because it's not a human life yet. So,
And we can continue that
Yeah.
the discussion offline.
Right.
Any questions for the witness? Seeing none. Again, thank you for your time today. Moving back to those in support, since there's nobody else in opposition, Senate Joint Resolution 72. And the baby may need to fill out a witness form. Please proceed when ready.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeremy Jacobs. I am the National Director of Bound for Life. We have chapters in about half the states in our union. And I'm also live in St. Charles, and Senator Schroer is my senator. So thank you for your time today. At the founding of our country, a group of men gathered at Constitution Hall and began to craft our Constitution. There was a group of abolitionists there who fought for one of two things. They wanted either the slaves to be fully recognized as people or for them not to be recognized at all. Instead, what happened was Article 1, Section 2, Paragraph 3 of our U.S. Constitution, which recognized slaves as 3/5 of a human. Most historians agree that that is a stain on our national history, and it enabled 80 years of slavery in this nation. And even our state seal and state flag bear that stain. The Roman numerals on our flag say 1820, which is when we applied to be a state. But we didn't become a state until 1821 because, in part, because of that 3/5 and the distribution of votes. And so our U.S. government waited until Maine wanted to enter to allow Missouri to become a state. That 80-year wait and the bloodshed, the Bible is very clear that bloodshed defiles a land and it demands justice. And that 80-year wait culminated in the bloodiest battle that our nation has ever seen, with more than 700,000 men dying on Missouri battlefields. President Lincoln recognized this properly, and in his second inaugural address near the end of the Civil War, he said, "Fondly do we hope, fervently do we pray that this mighty scourge of war may speedily pass away. Yet if God wills that it continue until all the wealth piled by the bondsman's 250 years of unrequited toil shall be sunk, and until every drop of blood drawn with the lash shall be paid with another drawn by the sword, as it was said 3,000 years ago, so still it must be said, the judgments of the Lord are true and righteous altogether." Today we stand at more than 65 million babies being murdered in our country. I cannot imagine what the judgment of the Lord will look like on our nation if we do not address this. So I urge this committee to vote and address this swiftly. Pass SJR 72. Let's recognize the value of life from its very earliest moments.
Thank you for your testimony today and making the very long trip from Senate District 2. Any questions for Jeremy? Seeing none. Next witness in support of Senate Joint Resolution 72, please come forward. I wish I had that energy. Just talk all day.
Good morning, Senators. Thank you for hearing this. My name is Ike Skelton. I am the presiding commissioner of Camden County, but for the record, I am not here in that official capacity. I'm here in my individual and personal capacity. You know, I was fortunate enough a few years ago, probably around 2014-15, to lead a small group of folks that helped get this issue passed through the Missouri House. It was voted on party lines, but otherwise it made it out in full unanimous. It didn't make it through the Senate. I don't even know if very far at all, but the issue is out there. One of the things that I thought about this issue is it seems as though every time that we talk about life and abortion and things of that nature, we're always fighting. It seems like those of us that believe in life, or that want to protect these babies, we're always having to fight for that one little thing or this little thing. When in reality, we should start with all babies are persons and protected. And if we could start from that basis as we are as persons, because then there is a process of a due process to determine some of these things that we always argue about. Life of the mother, incest, and so forth seems to be some of the real sticking points. So it would seem to me that it would be a fantastic thing to say all babies are important, unborn, and protected. And then if we want to talk about in vitro and life of the mother and some of these other things, we can maybe then start making some due process through this deliberative body that we have in Missouri, the General Assembly. And then maybe if you get enough folks that'll say, well, here's an exception, there's an exception, you know, that is what that is. But we must, I believe, start at the very bare minimum that all babies in the womb should be protected as persons. And our laws are a little schizophrenic, because if a pregnant lady were to walk into a bank robbery and one of those robbers were to kill that lady, they're going to probably be charged with 2 homicides. So how is that baby protected? And thank God they are. Please don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But how is that baby protected, but all the rest of them aren't? So I would just ask this committee, vote this forward. Let the people figure out if this is a grand scheme to have and a position to stand from going forward, and let the folks of Missouri decide that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions for the witness? Seeing none. I believe we have one in opposition that walked in. Come forward, make sure you have your witness form, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Sarah Schlemer here on behalf of the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. Our members are just a little concerned about the black and white nature that we're painting in this language. We have very specific, every pregnancy looks very different. We have very specific treatment plans for a lot of women, and some are having to face life or death decisions, and so we believe that there should be further consideration on something as wide sweeping as something like this.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions? Seeing none.
Thank you.
Next, in support of Senate Joint Resolution 72, please come forward. Yeah, just a quick show of hands, because I know we have about an hour left. Who is going to testify in support? Okay, we may have to shrink that time limit as we go further. Please proceed.
Mr. Chairman, member of the committee, I wish we had Senator Moon's bill where we could have a live stream so people could see how much people actually care about life in Missouri right now. When we have just a chairman and another senator here, it's kind of frustrating. But the resolution that's put forth here is not a mandate. What it simply asks us...
Briefly, for the record, can you state your name?
Sorry, my name is John Grady. What we have here, this resolution, is not a mandate. It simply asks the people, and if we do not feel comfortable, if we have a fear of asking the people to decide something, even if it's something we say might have been decided before, then we have a fear that we might have been wrong in that decision. We've heard everybody talk about the fundamental right to life. That is in the Declaration of Independence. As a combat veteran, that's what I fought for. And in fact, as senators, all senators swear to uphold the Constitution. And that means those lives that you're in your care, in your district, you are responsible for. That does not mean a life that has to be born. That means what we know, what MIT just proved in a nice, beautiful scientific study, because I followed the science. And I wish Senator McCreary and Senator Lewis were here to hear how we follow the science, because MIT has shown us repeatedly that once an egg is fertilized, there is a definitive change where life is now present. To negate that is to negate the oath of office, because you negate life. And what I'm asking here is that the people of the state are not being afraid of, because you want to send this out to the people of the state. We want the people to be able to have decide, and we want you to be able to trust the people to make the right decision, because we do believe in science. And if you notice in here, all of us speaking today have all already survived the thought of abortion, and we've been born. So those arguing for abortion, they're kind of on the wrong side of the thing as we sit here. And that's kind of what Ronald Reagan told us. And I wish that we would follow the Constitution. I wish that people could see and not just hear that there's only 2 senators in here on this very important issue. And like the witness before me said, there is due process we can do in this legislative body to handle those issues on miscarriage, on life of the mother, on rape and incest. That's what the legislative body is for. And so I ask you to pass SJR 72 forward.
Thank you for your testimony. I think briefly, I'm just going to comment. I hate the argument of, especially on a joint resolution that goes back to the people, that the people have spoken. We should just let that remain. Well, how many times has the Constitution been amended? The U.S. Constitution, Missouri Constitution, this goes to the people. So if we trust the people, let them have a vote on this. With that, any questions for the witness? Thank you. Next witness in support of Senate Joint Resolution 72. And Senator Moon, I think I told you at 2 o'clock I got to go next door to preside over another committee. So you can, if you'd like. I'm going to turn the gavel over after this witness to the senator here. And please proceed.
Good afternoon, chair members. My name is Casey Peterson. I'm the lead pastor at Main Street Church in St. Charles, Missouri, and I'm a St. Charles resident. Our church is just a block from the original Missouri State Capitol. Although the building is not nearly as beautiful as this one, I'm testifying today in support of SJR 72. And the building that we're sitting in says, Salus Populi Suprema Lex Esto. Let the welfare of the people be the supreme law. If it's true that government exists for the good and the safety of people, that must be for all people. And equal protection must be provided to all members of a family. And I think perhaps you agree with that sentiment, perhaps the other senators agree with that sentiment, but they're just not sure that life begins at fertilization. Perhaps they're not sure that life in a mother's womb is truly a human life. I would propose that in questions of human life, we are obligated to err on the side of extreme caution. Consequently, in some Missouri departments of government, this is certainly the case. For instance, last year, right before hunting season, the Missouri Department of Conservation sent out this safety reminder. I quote, "Safety while hunting is ultimately the responsibility of the hunter," said MDC Hunter Education Coordinator Justin McGuire. Hunters must clearly identify their targeted game animals before even putting their fingers on the triggers of their firearms or before drawing their bows when archery hunting. They must also be aware of what is behind their targets and should never shoot at movement or sound. In the great state of Missouri, if you're hunting in the woods and within range you hear rustling behind a bush, unless you can see without a shadow of a doubt that it's not a person, you don't even point the muzzle in that direction. You don't even put your finger on the trigger. You don't take 50-50 odds. You don't take 99-1 odds. If it's even a slight chance that it's a person, you don't shoot. Why would we take a different approach to life in the womb? We must not. If we don't support this resolution, the words engraved on this building will bear witness against us. Our common sense in hunting precautions will bear witness against us. And the word of God will bear witness against us, where God says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you." So, honorable committee members, I urge you, and for those who are not here, I would urge them, if there is even a 1% chance that they think it is life in the womb, that it is life at fertilization, not in the womb even, as we've heard this morning, then true justice requires extreme caution. We don't gamble with human life in the woods. We must not gamble with it here. Let the welfare of all people be the supreme law. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Right on that 3-minute limit. Any questions? Seeing none, Senator Berger, the gavel is yours.
Next person to testify in support of.
Hello. Hello, my name is Ben Belcher. I'm from Joplin. I'm here today with my son, Benny, who was here with me last year when I spoke in favor of the same bill in the House Committee. At that time, he was about the size of a plum. This is what the lives we're allowing to be snuffed out look like. God recognizes life in the womb as individuals throughout the Bible. He says children are innocent and do not know good from evil. He also says he hates the hands that shed innocent blood, and he holds rulers accountable for what they allow. Any justification for taking a life, preborn life, when applied to anyone who has already been born, fails. Any objection to this amendment based on the difficulty of enforcing or impossibility of preventing all abortions fail when the same logic is applied to prohibiting the murder of those outside the womb. The Lord says, "How long will you judge unjustly and show partiality to the wicked? Give justice to the weak and the fatherless. Maintain the right of the afflicted and the destitute. Open your mouth for the mute, for the rights of all who are appointed to destruction. Judge righteously. Defend the rights of the poor and needy. Who owns less and is more needy than a life in the womb? Rescue those who are unjustly sentenced to die. As it says out there in the rotunda, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell in it. And by his creation, his eternal power and divinity are clearly seen and understood, so that you will all be without excuse. Their blood cries out to him from the ground. How long, O Lord, will you not avenge us? Be wise now, therefore, be instructed, you rulers of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear. He is the governor among the nations. But those who reject his reign, will be slain before him. The same Jesus who was first greeted while he was still in the womb by another baby who is also still in the womb will hold you directly accountable for your vote on this bill. So today I call heaven and earth as witnesses against you that I have set before you both life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore choose life, that both you and the children of Missouri may live.
We didn't catch your name on the testimony, please.
Ben Belcher.
Ben Belcher.
Yes.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, anybody else to testify in opposition to? Seeing none. In support of? Please state your name and speak into the mic, please.
Hi, my name is Sarah Hanks. I'm speaking in support. Thank you for allowing me to testify. I am the mother of 10 children. I have 7 biological, 2 adopted through domestic adoption, and I have 1 embryo adoption. This is Honora Joy, and she was an embryo that we adopted. We decided to pursue embryo adoption so that we could give a child an opportunity to live a full, joyful life on this earth. When you adopt an embryo, what you receive a picture, and it does look like a clump of cells, but it is anybody who has gone through this process, I believe, would testify that that child is not just a clump of cells. They are a unique individual with a unique genetic code. Honora Joy, our beautiful child through embryo adoption, she had 2 genetic parents who gifted her traits of ethnicity that is different from our own and from our biological children. She's Asian, as you can see. She's got totally different features from us, and she's full of joy and 100% valuable and a beautiful person. Her personality became evident in the womb. Every ultrasound technician would have trouble getting her heartbeat because she was moving around so much, and she's still like that today. She would kick, she would bounce, and she would move so much that we could tell her personality before she was actually born. And we didn't know what she would look like, but we loved her even then, so much that I underwent all the necessary medical things, as our other witnesses testified. All the shots, all the medication, none of it was fun, but it was for sure worth it, because people are worth the sacrifice and the inconvenience, because people have intrinsic value. We valued her so much that we paid $18,000 for this whole adoption process. And we did it because we believed that her life was precious and that she deserved to be valued.
Thank you for your testimony. No questions for this witness. Next person to testify in support of, please.
My name is Judah Marks from Bowling Green, Missouri. If the church would join with me. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. I want to hear from Jeremiah, chapter 22. Verse 3 says, "Thus says the Lord, do justice and righteousness, and deliver from the hand of the oppressor him who has been robbed, and do no wrong or violence to the resident alien, the fatherless, and the widow, nor shed innocent blood in this place. For if you will indeed obey this word, then there shall enter the gates of this house kings who sit on the throne of David, riding in chariots and on horses, they and their servants and their people. But if you will not obey these words, I swear by myself, declares the Lord, that this house shall become a desolation." We see America, and we look around and we see the desolation that has happened in this country. St. Louis, Missouri used to be a beautiful city, thriving city. Look what it has become. Look at what it has become. I am convinced that the bloodshed that we have killed so many millions and millions that we are suffering, our children are suffering. I substitute teach. I drive a school bus. And the things that I see and that I hear, these children, okay, we are communicating to them. Every time a child is murdered in the state of Missouri, we're communicating to this next generation. I have 4 children. That life is not valuable. Life is not valuable. Life is not valuable. We must, in Jesus' name, in the name of Jesus, say, God, have mercy on us.
That's the time where I'll give you a couple seconds to wrap
Have
up,
mercy
please.
on us. I want to read from Senator Jesse Helms. He said that the highest level of moral culture is that at which the people of a nation recognize and protect the sanctity of innocent human life. Great nations die when they cease to live by the great principles which gave them vision and strength to rise above tyranny and human degradation. No nation can remain free or exercise moral leadership when it has embraced the doctrine of death. So I'm pleading with you, and I'm very disappointed that the rest of the community left. A lot of people drove very long distances to get here, and we just need a voice, praying for them, praying for their salvation. We know the root of the issue is the heart, so we're praying that in Jesus' name revival would sweep this entire state, and the name of Jesus would be proclaimed once again. Amen. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Next witness to testify in support of, please. Make sure you filled out a witness form when you come forward. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Emma Mainhart from Union, Missouri, speaking in favor of SJRs. Is it working now? Yeah, there's a green light. Okay, perfect. So thank you for letting me speak today. I was born at 23 weeks, weighing 1 pound, 5 ounces. I dropped down to 15 ounces, so that's 17 weeks early. I'm now 25 years old. I was given a 0% chance of surviving. The doctor said that it would not survive. But by the grace of God, I have the opportunity to stand before you today and speak in favor of SJR 72. God has revealed to us that we have personhood at the moment of fertilization. I had personhood before my due date and despite of my delivery date. Every person from the moment of fertilization has personhood. And my testimony of my personhood and why you should vote in favor of SJR 72. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. We're going to stand at ease just for a couple minutes. I got the sickness has kind of hit the Missouri Synod a little bit, so that's why we don't have as many people around here as what we need to have. So bear with us just for a minute. I got to step next door, and I'll be right back. Thank you. Next person to testify in support of, proceed, please.
Okay. Thank you, Senator Berger, for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Michael Compton. I'm with Act for Missouri, and I'm here in support of SJR 72. SJR 72 matters because it moves Missouri out of the endless political tug of war and back to the foundational question: who is a person, and when does the right to protection under the law begin? This resolution puts it back in the hands of the Missouri citizens and ultimately answers it for our state constitution, defining a person to include every human being with a unique DNA code, including every unborn child from the moment of conception until birth. And with the proposed 2026 Amendment 3 already headed to the ballot, there's no reason for the General Assembly, should they refuse to give Missourians the chance to go further, to protect all unborn children, not just some. SJR 72 allows Missouri to move the argument from the political discussion to a moral and ethical question. Second, SJR 72 forces moral clarity. Either life begins at conception or it doesn't. If it does, then equal protection cannot be treated like a sliding scale. We don't get to say you're a person if you're wanted, or you're a person if your father didn't commit a crime, or you're a person only after you pass through the birth canal. That isn't justice, that's unequal protection. Third, this is where voters are going to look for honesty. We're going into an election year, and a lot of people on the GOP side are going to be saying that they're 100% pro-life, but they can't claim to be 100% pro-life while supporting exceptions that declare some children may be intentionally killed because of how they were conceived. Equal protection means we do not punish an innocent child for the sins of somebody else. SJR 72 draws the line where justice draws it. All human beings are persons, and the law should protect them equally. Therefore, I respectfully urge you to pass SJR 72 out of committee, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Next person to testify in support of, please come forward. Again, make sure you have your witness form filled out.
Hello, my name is Camelin Belcher, and I'm from Joplin, Missouri. I'm a mother of 2 young children. Today we face a simple question: is human life in the womb deserving of the same protections as every other human being in Missouri? Of course, the answer is yes. That little baby boy you saw earlier, he's 5 months old, and he is still completely dependent on my body, just as he was when he was in the womb. He's the same child he was before birth. Yet under the current law, it would have been legal to end his life through an abortion. About 95% of abortions in the U.S. are elective, with no threat to the mother's health or fetal abnormalities. Abortions due to rape account for roughly 1% or less, meaning life is deliberately created and then deliberately destroyed. God says he knows those in the womb. God is the giver of life, therefore human life belongs to him. It is not up to us to intentionally take another human life. Isaiah 49:1 says, "The Lord called me from the womb." Creating life in the womb is a deliberate and personal process. It is the most special thing God has given us the ability to do as human beings. We are co-creators with him, able to bring brand new people into the world with their own soul. Abortion destroys this gift. Psalm 139:13-14 says, "For you formed my inward parts, you knitted me together in my mother's womb." All humans, born and unborn, are created in the image of God and therefore share equal value and deserve equal protection. God does not tolerate murder, since even the smallest baby in the womb is a unique individual human life made by God. Killing that baby is an act of murder. Genesis 9:6 says, "Whoever sheds the blood of man, by man shall his blood be shed, for God made man in his own image." It is our duty today to boldly stand up for the innocent human life in Missouri, whose lives are being taken every day. No matter the situation, the baby here is always the victim. We must hold accountable those responsible for taking life. This includes the mother, any accomplices, and any men who force or coerce a woman to get an abortion. You cannot hold someone accountable for coercion if the act of abortion itself carries no punishment. This bill is not anti-woman or anti-woman's health, as some may think. It is anti-murder. Every human life equals equal protection under the law. We must rise above what others, even the majority, may think and boldly protect innocent life. If the majority want to legalize rape, you would obviously be against that. Abortion violates the tiny bodies of those in the womb. We cannot see them, and they cannot scream for help, yet God sees it, and he cares. So please vote do pass on SJR 72.
Thank you for your testimony. Next person to testify in support of, please come forward.
Thank you. My name is Matthew Sheffer. I'm a pastor at Church of the Word in Fenton, Missouri, and I think I speak overwhelmingly for our congregation that we believe in the personhood of preborn children. From a pastor's
Where did you say you were from?
I'm pastor at Church of the Word of Fenton, Missouri. I live in
Fenton,
Pacific,
Missouri. Okay.
and I did fill out a form. It's in the stack. I put it up here
Well,
earlier.
I thought you said Benton, Missouri, because that's where I'm from. I thought I didn't recognize you.
No, sir, Fenton, Missouri. Just giving a little bit of a theological perspective, there's a lot of discussion, it seems, from certain ladies here that that the people voted for the right to have abortions. I want to say rights come from God. The first commandment, I am the Lord thy God that brought thee up out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You shall have no other gods before me, is not about worship, it's about authority. Rights come from God. If rights come from man, if they come from we the people, they can be taken away by we the people. If we allow society to define marriage, it undermines the foundations of the social order. If we allow it to define when life begins, what murder is, that's how we get slavery. That's how we get oppression. That's how we get genocide. God defines life. He defines murder. If man can define it, then man can take away all of our rights. Rights do not come from we the people. The incarnation of Jesus Christ began when the Holy Spirit hovered over Mary, and Emmanuel, God was with us. If we allow this attitude of rights come from man, we will continue to have a further slide into tyranny and murder and bloodshed. What we have in America, the rights of life, liberty, and property coming from God, is an anomaly in history. For most of history, tyrants ruled over people and they did what was right in their own eyes. If we lose perspective of this, there's no, property is not safe, life is not safe, nothing is safe. Our country was founded on this idea that we're endowed by our Creator with inalienable rights. And what I hear is that Amendment 3 has redefined life in a way that it's okay to murder. If what was being done to preborn children was being done to puppies and kittens, there would be an outcry in the streets like we've never seen before. Not even in this room is there an outcry that's commensurate with the travesty that is taking place. So I just want to say that God forbids it, and with thus saith the Lord trumps we the people every time.
Thank you for testimony. Next person to testify in support of.
So my name is Stephanie Manhart, and I'm from Union, Missouri. At the age of 18, I was faced with the reality of an unplanned pregnancy. My life was about to change in more ways than I knew. Pregnant with twin girls, I went into labor at just 23 weeks. I was told 23-week-old nano-preemies had a 0% chance of survival. They would come into my room with lists of all the problems that the girls would have. They would tell me they're not going to survive, they're not going to live, but if they do, they'll be blind, they'll be deaf, they won't be able to walk, they won't be able to talk because they're too early. They have a 0% chance of viability. My girls were considered non-viable outside of my womb. My girls were born 23 weeks and 5 days. I was able to hold our daughter Zoe as her fully developed hand, every little finger, every little toe, she gripped my finger. Her whole hand would grab just my fingernail. That's how tiny her hand was. We held her until she went to be with the Lord. My daughter Emma was immediately rushed to the NICU, the neonatal intensive care unit. And to put this into perspective to how early my girls were born, Emma, who was rushed to the NICU, her eyes were still fused shut. She only weighed 15 ounces. I can remember standing over her incubator after just losing our daughter Zoe, grieving over our daughter Zoe, but so thankful that we were able to hold her for 30 minutes. I remember looking over our daughter and turning to the doctor and saying, my goodness, in the state of Missouri, right now, she's 23 weeks. I could have legally aborted her for 1 more week. Why is it that now, looking at her in this incubator, I couldn't just say, oh my goodness, you know what? I don't want her anymore. No, I'm a young mom. I'm 18. I'm not prepared for this. I'm not prepared to have a child with disabilities. I can't handle this. Why now would it not be okay, even illegal, for me to say I want to kill my daughter? So I just cannot express to you, why does location dictate life? So I ask you, why does location dictate personhood? My daughter was given a 0% chance to live, but against every prediction, she did survive. Not only did she survive, she thrived. She's now walking and talking, and you just heard her speak a minute ago. She spent 6 months in the neonatal intensive care unit, and with God's protection over her, she truly is our miracle baby. I just, Emma and her sister Zoe deserved personhood rights at the moment of fertilization. It didn't matter, regardless of their gestational age. It didn't matter of their predicted medical outcome. It didn't matter if I was prepared as a mother or not. They deserved personhood at the moment of conception. And I believe that every child inside the womb and outside of the womb also deserves that protection under the law. And so I hope you vote in favor of this. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony today.
Thank
Moving to the next in favor, and show of hands, how many do we have left? Okay, we're going to have to move it to 2 minutes. Next one, please come up. Have your witness form ready. And make sure we state our name for the record.
Yep.
Proceed when ready.
I'm Michael Lindbergh from Troy, Missouri, and I'm a simple man, but I feel like the founders and, more importantly, our Savior thought it was worth empowering simple men to have a say and to share what they believe. And I feel reading the scriptures and letting the scriptures speak is probably the most powerful tool that we have. So I'm just going to read a little section here from Psalm 139 that's been previously quoted. For you formed my inward parts. You wove me in my mother's womb. I will give thanks to you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works, and my soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in secret and skillfully wrought in the depths of the earth. Your eyes have seen my unformed substance, and in your book were written all the days of my life, ordained for me, when as yet there was not one of them. How precious also are your thoughts to me, O God. How vast is the sum of them. If I should count them, they would outnumber the sand. When I awake, I am still with you. And I'll spare you the next section about how God feels about people who disagree with him on that point. But I want to now turn to Romans 13, because I was sitting there unsure if I was even going to speak, but there was a thought I was having that I've yet to hear. And I'm sure people think it. I just think it's worth saying. And maybe the flipping of Bible pages is something that's lost in our nation, but hopefully we'll get that back. So speaking about the authority, the government as ordained by the Lord, it says in 13 verse, I'm going to find it. Verse 6, for rulers are servants of God. So first and foremost, the job of the government is not for the people, it's actually for God. And everyone who is in a place of government will stand before the King of Kings, not before the people, but before a holy and just God who says, these are my standards. Did you walk in them regardless of how popular it was? And so just to wrap up with the words of a great man, choose this day whom you will serve. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And we'll keep coming back to this. If it doesn't pass now, we'll come back next year. We'll come back the next year. We're going to make it happen.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, in support of joint resolution.
Hello, my name is Rebecca Green, and I'm from Neosho, Missouri. I'm a mama, and I have a family, and I have children, and I also wanted to state for the record that I'm a person today, and I was a person yesterday, and I was a person from the moment that I was conceived in the womb. And I also, after hearing all of these multiple testimonies, agreeing with them, and that we cannot take control of our future by just disregarding the ones that we haven't seen yet. That's not something that any of us can afford to have on our record. We can't afford to do that. But I also see a solution and a common ground to what Mike Moon was stating about taking care of the children. It seems like there is a common ground between one of the committee women that was up here earlier saying wanting to protect the children. This seems like a very clean bill. And what I've heard, being amongst other political figures, senators, and representatives in our state of Missouri, is that there needs to be another solution. On the ballot this year, Amendment 3 will be back on the ballot, and there will be some new language. And what I've heard from other representatives and senators is they're not happy with the two options that are given, and they wish that there was another choice. I'm supporting SB 72 and for Mike Moon, and I'm saying that this is the solution. This would be another alternative for the people to have their voice and something that they're seeking for. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony. Moving to the next in support, please come forward, have your witness form.
Hi, Lisa Panette, Armorvine. I rarely get to talk to you about my daughter, but today I'm here to talk about her and the kids like her. I had one of my daughters that was a fetal anomaly with a 0% chance for survival. So she meets the standard that we carved out in the new Amendment 3. Because of that, I want to stand in the gap and explain. I went to the best doctors in Frontenac and Ladue. I went to Washington University. None of them gave me any chance of survival whatsoever for her condition. And when I asked the doctor how many other people chose to abort, because that was the only option that he gave me, you've had a healthy child, you can have another, so just abort her and go on your way. I asked how many other people had this happen to that he had seen, and his answer was 4. And I said, what did they do? And he goes, well, they all aborted. Well, that was the only option that we were given. So I sought out other medical care. I'm not saying it was easy. She was on a feeding tube for 2 years, and I was there with her every day. Anyone that deals with a feeding tube understand what that's like. It's not just feeding, it's also burping through a tube, and it's a full-time and then some job. And I did that, and I'm so happy that I did that. But I grieve for those other children and those other parents specifically that weren't even given the option to say that maybe you'll have a child that is here and no one would even know that they're okay. And my daughter today, you wouldn't know, she's in college. Like others have testified about hearing and vision loss and everything under the sun, they told me those same things, and that's not the case. And so I'm just here to advocate in the gap for them.
Thank you for your testimony. Moving to the next in support of the joint resolution.
Excuse me. Hello, counselors. I am Anthony Dodson, and I'm speaking for SJR 72. I had prepared a speech about how my mother felt the weight of losing her child through a miscarriage through an ectopic pregnancy. But something else has caught my attention today and shows the fallacy of mankind determining what is right. The council members that were in opposition to the bill displayed several key things that I think are telling of the personhood. I noticed that 2 council members that were most vocal about their opinion in opposition did not smile at a single person in favor of the bill. I noticed that 1 council member did not even look at the individual presenting their stories for their passion for the bill and the unborn that are being slaughtered. The 2 claimed to be in opposition of personhood, yet the individuals pouring their hearts out, the council members learned that there was no more support for their cause. They walked out. Now, maybe they have other cases that they have been summoned to hear, but the fact that they treated those in opposition with contempt and scorn should tell people all they need to know about this bill. To me, this displays that is something much deeper than freedom, as they claim. It seems that it is more about votes instead of what is right. Yet when people present them with their religious identity, they are treated as less than a human because they do not agree with them. Charlie Kirk, when asked about this very topic, stated, "When this situation happens in the extreme case of rape, we do good after evil, not evil after evil." Now, I want to tell those council members that I have spoke about earlier that I will continue to love them and pray for them that they come to the side of righteousness in the Lord. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony today. Next in support.
Hello, my name is Michelle Smith. I'm from the district next to Mike's, and I helped him get elected. I'm happy to be here. In fact, I sent the link to Faith Christian School where my son goes to school, and those kids are listening to this hearing today, those high school kids. So I would urge you to vote yes for this resolution that ensures that every person, especially the most helpless among us, have dignity and equal protection. Right now, we allow the preborn to have two opposing values, either precious or worthless based on arbitrary circumstances. Our laws and what we do here should not be illogical. We should create parameters that encourage the best in us, not the worst. Government's chief duty, as our Constitution states, is to secure the natural right to life. When it fails to do so for any group, it fails in its chief design. SJR 72 corrects this injustice by extending the same equal protection to every human life without exception. I would urge you not to let the mistakes of our past blind us to what's right and just. Please respect all life and vote yes on SJR 72.
I think the only thing I would add is in this building, there's a lot that we do that's illogical.
Okay.
Doesn't make any sense, and I think the senator will agree. But thank you for your testimony today. I'm going to go to the next in support. I think Ron would agree, too. There's a lot that we do in this building. It leaves us scratching our head, but with that, you have 2 minutes.
I would agree. For the record, my name is Ron Calzone. I'm one of the directors of Missouri First. And I am, of course, in support of SJR 72 and don't have anything to offer that hasn't already been said. It's been tremendous, except this. This is the principled thing to do.
Thank you for your testimony. Anyone else to testify in support of the resolution? Seeing none, any closing remarks? Oh, okay. Briefly, come on up. And make sure you have a witness form filled out and state your name for the record.
My name is Elliot Ritchie. When I walked into the Capitol today, I read this on the Capitol: Lord God of hosts, be with us yet, lest we forget. I contend that we have forgotten. We have forgotten the role of what we are to do. The magistrates across the nation of the state have forgotten what we are to do. This is what God says in Romans 13:4. For he, referring to the civil magistrates, is a minister of God to thee for good. But if thou do that which is evil, be afraid. For he beareth not the sword in vain. For he is the minister of God, a revenger to execute wrath upon him that doeth evil. Yet there is prevailing evil and wickedness in our nation and in our state. And I urge you to please pass forth this bill so that there can be justice in our state. Thank you.
Thank you. Was there another wanting to testify? Okay. Oh, in opposition? Okay. Are there any further witnesses in support? Seeing none, please come forward. You'll have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon. My name is Maggie Olivia. I am testifying in opposition on behalf of Abortion Action Missouri. I think that the two senators who left this hearing earlier said it well, that Missourians have already spoken. Missourians have already said no to abortion bans. And if the members of this committee were required to vote on abortion in accordance with the ways that their districts voted on abortion in 24, this committee would not have the votes to advance this legislation. Missourians have nuanced opinions about abortion, and that's perfectly fine, but overwhelmingly Missourians agree that politicians and government have no business interfering in personal, private, family decision-making. Happy to take questions.
Thank you for your testimony. Any others in opposition? Please come forward.
Oh, if I could say one more thing. I did hear some disparaging remarks about a couple of the senators who left this hearing early, and I did just want to point out that Senator Lewis is the only medical professional serving on this committee, and I'm pretty sure the only medical professional here today in this room, and she deserves the respect in her profession.
Thank you for your testimony. Next in opposition, please come forward.
Doug Mann with Planned Parenthood, Great Rivers Action. Basically, everything's already been said. The senators that unfortunately had to leave made very good points. This bill does not follow the science, nor does it follow medical standards, and it's going to cause a lot of issues outside of just abortion, which seems to be the only thing that's being discussed today. So,
Thank you for your testimony. Having no questions, that'll conclude your your testimony. Seeing no other witnesses in support or against, any closing remarks?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for indulging us today. We are certainly at a political divide. It appears that we are also at a scientific divide and also a spiritual divide. We sat in a chamber that if you look at the dais and then cast your vision to the upper left, there's a saying that we often forget, and I'll just close with that there is nothing politically right that is morally wrong. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That will conclude the public hearing, and having no further business before the committee, we are adjourned.